I've explored a lot of places across the country, towering skylines, polished coastlines, the postcard-perfect views everyone posts on Instagram, but nothing prepared me for the quiet beauty of Appalachia. Not the Appalachia you hear about in stories, not the stereotypes on TV, and definitely not the version that gets tossed around in political debates. I'm talking about the real Appalachia, an ancient world of green-tinted mountains, fog that moves like breath, towns where people still wave at strangers, and landscapes so untouched they feel older than memory itself. And today, I'm taking you there. But before we start, I want you to ask yourself something. When was the last time you saw something so beautiful it actually changed the way you felt about the world? Because that's what happened to me in Appalachia, again and again, in places that most people will never take the time to see. It began at sunrise. Appalachia doesn't just wake up, it rises slowly, like a story being told page by page. The morning fog curls between the blue-green ridges, soft and gentle, as if the mountains are still dreaming. I drove along a winding road in the early dawn, no phone signal, just the hum of my engine and the sound of wind lifting through trees. The forests on both sides were dense and endless, oak, birch and hickory forming a canopy that filtered the sunlight into warm, honey-colored streams. There's something humbling about driving through a place that feels both alive and untouched. It's as if the land is reminding you that no matter how fast the world moves, it still belongs to something older. The first place that stole my breath was a hollow so hidden, so quiet, it felt like a secret. Locals told me about it the night before, saying, "If you really want to see the heart of Appalachia, go where the pavement ends." So that's exactly what I did. I followed a narrow gravel path down into a valley where the world suddenly opened up. Wildflowers covered the fields in bursts of color, soft violets, golds, and whites that swayed gently in the breeze. In the distance, a weathered barn leaned into the sun, its red paint faded by decades of rain and wind. You could almost hear the echoes of generations that lived, worked, and sang in these hills. And the silence. God, the silence. Not empty, not lonely, but peaceful in a way that modern life forgets. It was the kind of silence that wraps around you and lets you breathe deeper. It was here that I realized something people rarely understand. Appalachia isn't just a place, it's a feeling, a slow rhythm, a quieter heartbeat, a reminder that beauty doesn't need to shout to be heard. As I continued deeper into the mountains, I stumbled onto places that don't appear on maps. Streams as clear as glass, waterfalls hidden behind curtains of moss, and cliffs that opened into sweeping, cinematic views without a single human structure in sight. In one spot, the rocks formed natural steps, leading down into a gorge where the light filtered through the trees like stained glass. The water pooled into crystal blue basins that shimmered with every ripple. It looked like something out of a fantasy world, untouched and unclaimed. I sat by the edge, listening to the water whisper over the stone, and I wondered how many people had passed through here before me. Maybe none, maybe countless. That's the magic of Appalachia, you never know. There's history woven into every ridge and valley here. The mountains themselves are ancient, older than the Himalayas, older than the Rockies, older even than the concept of America. When you stand on an overlook and see ridge after ridge fading into the haze, you're not just looking at geography, you're looking at time itself. These mountains have witnessed millions of years, oceans rising, continents shifting, species evolving, and they'll still be here long after we're gone. But Appalachia isn't just about landscapes, it's also about people. People who carry stories and traditions handed down like heirlooms. I met one man near a general store, a small wooden place that smelled like cedar and motor oil, who told me that his family had lived in the same valley for 7 generations. "These mountains raised us," he said with a grin. "They teach you everything you need to know about patience, work, and gratitude." And you could tell he meant it. Appalachians have a warmth that feels genuine, not forced. They don't know you, but they'll offer you directions, a meal, or a story without blinking. There's a kind of grounded hospitality here that feels like stepping back into a world where kindness wasn't rare. Then there are the towns, small, colorful, tucked between ridges like hidden keeps. Some of them look frozen in time, Old brick storefronts, wooden porches, diners with neon signs flickering in the afternoon sun. But what? But the deeper you go into Appalachia, the more you realize that the region isn't just defined by its landscapes, it's defined by the quiet stories etched into those landscapes. Every bend in the mountain roads, every abandoned farmhouse, every forgotten coal town has a history people outside this region rarely hear. And some of the most extraordinary stories aren't written in books or carved into signs. They're passed down through generations, whispered on front porches, carried in the crackle of a campfire, or sung in voices shaped by the mountains themselves. Travel a little farther into the heart of the range, and you find towns that outsiders don't even know exist. Places like Bartow, Marlinton, Hinton, Grundy, Hindman, and Whitesburg. On a map, they might look like nothing more than tiny specks tucked between folds of green ridges. But in person, these towns are living museums of Appalachian culture. You'll see hand-painted storefronts, old-fashioned barber poles, churches with white wooden siding, and diners where the coffee is always hot and the accents always warm. And if you listen closely, you'll hear something else. Pride. A kind of pride that isn't loud or showy, but steady and unbreakable, built from generations who survived the hardest winters, the steepest land, and the toughest jobs America had to offer. Because in Appalachia, everything is earned, nothing comes easy, and that's exactly why everything feels so real. Follow the back roads and you'll stumble onto places that look untouched by the modern world. Old swinging bridges stretch across icy rivers. Schoolhouses from the early 1900s sit in fields like frozen moments in time. And deep in the woods, entire ghost towns still stand. Towns where coal companies once built entire communities, homes, schools, even theaters. Now, only the shells remain. Nature has begun to reclaim the bricks, the wood, the memories. But even those ruins carry a kind of beauty. The kind that reminds you that nothing man-made can last forever, but stories always do. Keep going, and you'll find some of the most mysterious spots in all of America. There are trails that lead to ancient petroglyphs carved by Native Americans centuries before the first settlers arrived. There are legends of buried treasure in the hills of Tennessee, of lost mines in Kentucky, of ghost lights floating over valleys in West Virginia. Locals will tell you these stories aren't just myths. They'll say, if you spend long enough in these mountains, you'll see things science can't explain. Some talk about hearing voices while hiking alone. Not frightening, but familiar, like echoes of the past. Others swear they've felt the mountains shift, almost like the land itself is alive. Whether you believe these stories or not, one thing is certain. Appalachia is a place where nature and mystery walk side by side. But not all the secrets here are eerie or mystical. Many are simply hidden in plain sight, like the waterfalls that only locals know how to reach, tucked behind unmarked gravel pull-offs or down steep, winding footpaths. These aren't the big, famous waterfalls you'll see on travel websites. These are the quiet ones, the sacred ones, the ones that feel like you're stepping into a world no one else has touched. You'll find falls that drop into sapphire pools so clear you can see every stone at the bottom. Falls that glow gold in the late afternoon sun. Falls where the only sound is water carving through ancient rock, a sound that has echoed here for thousands of years. And the wildlife? Appalachia has some of the richest biodiversity in America. Elk roam free in places where they vanished for centuries. Black bears wander forest edges. Endless species of birds weave songs through the treetops. In spring, the forest floor explodes with wildflowers, trillium, lady slipper orchids, flame azaleas, turning the mountains into a canvas of color. Then there's the lightning bugs. In early summer, in certain untouched pockets of the Smokies and Alleghenies, they don't just flash, they flicker in perfect unison. People travel from across the world to see this phenomenon, a natural light show that feels almost supernatural. But if you want to understand Appalachia on the deepest level, you need to spend time with the people who call it home. They're the true heart of the region. Storytellers, musicians, farmers, craftsmen, coal miners, fishermen, and families whose lineages run through these ridges like veins of gold. Sit with them on a porch and you'll learn more about these mountains in one afternoon than any book could teach. They'll tell you about the floods that swept through towns in the 70s, the coal booms and busts, the traditions they refuse to let die, and the recipes passed down through generations. Food here isn't just something you eat, it's a heritage. Cornbread baked in cast-iron skillets, brown beans slow-cooked with ham hock, ramps gathered from deep forest pockets, fried apples, skillet potatoes, fried chicken the way great-grandmothers made it, and of course, the famous apple butter that simmers for hours until it's thick, dark, and sweet. And the music, that's a world in itself. Appalachian music is raw, real, and powerful. You'll hear it in community halls, roadside festivals, and front porches where fiddles, banjos, and mandolins come together in harmonies that hit you right in the chest. Many say this is the birthplace of American music. Listen closely and you'll hear echoes of Ireland, Scotland, Africa, and indigenous rhythms, all woven together into something uniquely Appalachian. But perhaps the most remarkable thing here is resilience. Appalachia has faced stereotypes, economic struggles, and hardships that outsiders rarely understand. But through everything, the people remain rooted like the mountains themselves. They adapt, reinvent, rebuild, and rise again every time. Drive through on a foggy morning, and you'll see small businesses slowly coming alive, artisans opening their shops, farmers tending their land, and families greeting each other by name. In many places, the community is so close-knit that everyone knows everyone else. And that closeness isn't a limitation. It's a strength. Because in Appalachia, community is everything. Neighbors look out for each other, strangers are treated like family, and the mountains remind you every step of the way that you're never truly alone. So when people call Appalachia unseen, they're not entirely wrong, but not in the way they think. It's unseen not because it's empty, but because it's misunderstood, because its beauty is too vast for quick snapshots, because its stories are too deep for outsiders to grasp in a weekend visit, because you can't truly know these mountains until you walk them slowly, breathe their mist, listen to their silence, and let them reveal themselves in their own time. There are wonders here that no brochure will ever show you, secrets no guidebook will list, and experiences you can't replicate anywhere else in the world. Appalachia doesn't perform, it doesn't rush, it doesn't try to impress. It simply exists, ancient, quiet, resilient, beautiful, and if you're lucky enough to experience it, you'll carry it with you for the rest of your life.